Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. You are looking at the domestic, also known as the white brand, sewing machine model 1514, and I am going to show you today how to thread the machine. In the past, I would often demonstrate machines, show you how to restore them, and I've threaded so many machines, either I didn't always show you how to thread them, so I thought let's try to change that. So now this is a 15 class. This is a clone or a Japanese copy of the famous Singer 15 class sewing machine. The reason you're seeing it from this perspective is that when you thread a Singer 15 class, you don't thread it the way you would thread most machines. Now, normally, if you don't, this is just a flat piece of steel, you typically are thinking, oh, well, maybe the tension assembly is over here, and it is, because all class 15 machines should most of the time have their tension assemblies on the left side mounted toward the back of the left side. And every 15 clone and every 15 I've ever seen has this. What can throw you off, of course, is that this, which is, to my knowledge, unique to this model, whether it says domestic or white on it. And of course, I've shown all of you that in fact this is a light switch. It is such a curious place. I think it's wonderful and cool. It's a very curious place to put a light switch, but there you go. So if any of you try to thread this machine and you think that's a tension assembly, you're going to, it's not going to go well for you, because it's not. You cannot thread it there. Do not put thread in here. You don't do it. Now, so how do we thread a class 15? Or in this case, a clone of the 15? Well, you thread it the way you typically thread a 15 for the most part. So I've got the camera way up high here so that you can see. If you're sitting in front of the machine, obviously you would be sitting lower than I am standing showing you this. But what I want you to see is typically you're taking your thread toward the left side, and there's a thread guide right here. Okay, a little pigtail shaped thread guide. So that is where you're going to hit your first thread guide. And I'm showing you that because, let's see if I can give you a better, it's kind of an odd thing to display here. So here's my thread, I'm coming over, and I'm just going to come up, and now I've just gotten that first thread guide, okay? Now let's bring the machine back without totally dismembering our foot pedal. Now, once you've got your first thread guide right here, okay, now we can actually lower the camera and myself, because now we can take a look at it from the angle that you would normally be seeing if you were threading your machine. This is not a very complicated thread path, so let's kind of show you here. Many of you, again, will be sitting from the front, and eventually you'll know there's a thread guide here. So we're going to come down, and you want to kind of hold a little tension on your thread. And as it comes down, I'm going to come right here. And if you're not sure, sometimes a thread tension assembly will have this little, it's like a little, it looks like a little tongue, for lack of a better word. And if you can see this, what I'm doing, you could maybe see a little better if I zoom in for you. All right, so you're going to see, if you don't see this, older machines didn't really even have this. It's a nice to have. So you take your thread, right? And you're going to just lay it against this little tongue, and it'll help you. It's just a guide to make sure you get in the right spot. So what are we going to do from here? We're going to come around and make sure I want to make sure that my take-up arm is in the best position. Okay, so here we are. I'm coming around, and now I've got my check spring. I'm going to pull my thread until this thread is shaped in a very sort of funny shape on this one. very often it looks like almost the symbol of an ampersand. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. The little old school script symbol for and. I think it might help us if we zoom in a little bit better here, because this is a very strange thing to illustrate to you. So let's see, maybe we get a little more light. How's that? That's a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to come back and we'll try it again. So here I am. There we go. So we've gotten, we've come down here. We've hit that little tongue space. We're right in between our discs. And then we're going to come up. And as we come up, I'm going to pull, just keep pulling and hold a little tension on the thread above the machine like I showed you. And as I pull back away from the machine, the thread just slipped into this little upper loop of the spring, and that is of course your check spring. So there you go, you're in the check spring. Now what are you going to do? You're going to come up, I'll zoom back out for you. So now that we've got that, we're going to come straight up to our take-up arm, and you're going to thread it towards you. So if you're sitting in front of your machine, you're going to come towards yourself. I'm nearsighted, so let's see how far away I'm behind the camera, obviously. It's an awkward thing to try to do, to try to thread something towards yourself. There we go. Okay, so I've threaded the take-up arm. Now, you will actually know that you have threaded this properly, because when I gently tug, if I gently tug on my thread now that I'm in the take-up arm, you see the check spring bouncing. You should see the check spring bouncing there. Then you're good. Okay, we're not done yet, but you should have gotten your tension assembly properly threaded. Note, and I did not mention this as I often do, make sure that your presser foot is up, right? You've lifted the presser foot, okay? There's no computer that's going to remind you. You have to remind yourself. If you thread the machine with the presser foot down, it can alter your thread tension in a weird way. You might get away with it, but if you don't, and you're having problems, you don't want these tension discs to be squeezing the thread when you're threading it. Okay, so you want to make sure that your tension discs are loose when you're threading. Okay, so now that we've gotten our take-up arm, we've got this thread guide here, and if you're not sure, if you're trying to pull the thread into the guide from the back and it doesn't want to go, then you try it again from the front, and there you have. You'll feel and hear a little click, and then you can hear the thread actually bumping up against the thread guide. All right. Well, we're not done yet. We've got a little bit more to go. A lot of thread guides make sense when you realize why they are there. You want the thread to be guided, thus the name, and you want it to basically keep your thread from getting squirrely on you so that you can move it towards the needle. So we've got one more guide, and it's sitting right there. It looks like a little ring. Now, do you catch the thread from the back? Well, let's see. See if it wants to go in. Nope, it didn't. I went from the front, and now I have, notice the thread is now being kept from billowing out because the only thing left is to thread the needle. And like most machines of this period, very few exceptions, almost every machine from this period, you are going to thread your needle from the left towards the right of the machine. So we're going, this way. A few of the singers, not all, a few of them will actually thread the opposite, right to left. And you really are not going to see front to back threading, which is the standard today. You don't really start to see that until the 70s. A few of the European machines from the 60s, I think they were some of the first to do that. It is, from my perspective, a little easier to see. Now that I've already gotten my thread in my tension assembly, I'm going to lower the foot, mainly just to give me a little bit better chance of seeing my needle. How to thread my needle. And may have to turn it this way, get a little light. Sometimes getting light behind the needle, the eye of the needle, will help. This is a 14 size needle, and so it will require a little more patience on my part, and it can be helpful to have, I don't want to create any glare for you. Sometimes I can actually see the eye of the needle a little bit better if I've got some light on it. Getting toward the early evening here. Sometimes if I want to see the eye of the needle, I can do this. I don't know if you're going to be able to see. You may be getting a lot of reflection in from the camera. And there we go. So I've actually managed, oh, well, if I'd been using the old brain, I could have turned on my light now that I have one. And maybe that would have made my work a little bit quicker and maybe less glare toward you. Now, what do we have left to do? I am basically going to, I can get my foot out of the way there. And of course I want to bring up my bobbin thread. Oh, not on that try. Let's try again. And I've got, so I have a red upper thread, and then I have my lower bobbin thread is sort of this lime green color. And I did that on purpose because what I'm trying to accomplish is to make the thread as easy to see as possible, not just for this purpose here in threading the machine, but also to make it easier to show the stitch quality, because I'm going to be doing test stitching, and when I do that, I need to be able to see what the stitches are doing. It's easier. I'll do a long straight stitch. I only have straight to choose from here, but I'll have it on long stitch length, and then I'll have these bright colored threads, which will help me see if I'm having any issues with the threading of a machine that is almost ready, I hope, for a new owner. But first I've got to finish the testing on it. And it is really fun. I've seen this machine, I've seen pictures of it for years, and just now getting a hold of one. And so far I'm not disappointed, and I just, obviously I'm still geeking out on this light fixture. Why they took the trouble of doing that, I don't know, but someone had the idea that, hey, let's be innovative, and they were trying to stand out, make it, you're always trying to compete with lots of other machines, lots of other Japanese clones, and hey, you want to do something to make your product stand apart. So apparently they did, and it worked out in the end. So I appreciate all of you watching. That is how you thread a machine like this. It is very similar to most of your Singer 15s or 15 class machines when you have your tension assembly here on the left. If you have a machine that is sort of like this, you might might have a similar thread path. Some of the machines always vary a little bit, but sometimes you just have to try and see. And you saw me here. In fact, I have the manual. I didn't even go and look at the manual. I just started, okay, it goes here, it goes there, and then I tried it from the front. It didn't, or was it the back? And you just keep trying until you get the thread into the thread guide. And once you've done it enough times, having the manual is wonderful, by the way, but eventually you won't even need the manual either. You'll just thread it, right? You'll have you'll have it memorized. And it's funny because when you go from one machine to the next, you have to remember, I work on so many different machines, I sometimes have to go back and remind myself, okay, how did this thread, how did this go? But that's all in a day's work. So we're getting closer, everyone. The domestic 1950s gorgeous turquoise sewing machine, made Japan. we will see how the test stitching goes in the next video. I hope you all join me as I get toward the end, I believe. You never know, but get toward the end of launching this into the debut series, as I like to call them, and eventually finding a new home for this amazing piece of engineering from 1950s North America. Take care, everyone.